Hello, everyone. Morning or good afternoon, depending of where you are, and welcome to today's webinar called "The Cool Future: Exploring Sustainable District Cooling Solutions from the MENA region to Europe." So this event is organized by UNEP Cool Coalition, Empower, and Euroheat Power. It's a privilege to have you all here as we dive into the critical topic of sustainable district cooling. As urban cooling demands are projected to triple by 2050, the need for innovative, efficient, and climate-resilient solutions has never been more urgent, and district cooling stands out as a transformative approach. And today we will explore its potential to address growing cooling demands across the MENA region and Europe. So before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. So the slide and the recording of this webinar will be shared with all participants afterwards. During this session, also please free to leave your question in the chat. I may select one or two to address right after each presentation, but also we will of course have a Q&A session, as you could see afterwards, and there as well you will be able to ask your question. So with us today, we have Dr. Luis Munera from UNEP, Andrea Voigt from Danfoss, Samer from Empower, Samer Kauder from Empower, Diana Adam from BEW Berlin, and myself, Victoria Lienard from Euroheat Power. So I will quickly dive into the program of today. So we will start with highlights from the COP21. I hope you are excited to have this latest news. So this is more generally on cooling. Then we will have a presentation on the Global Cooling Pledge and UNEP implementation programs. Afterward, I will make a short introduction to district cooling. Then we will go to the two regions that I mentioned. So we will start with the MENA region with context and best practices. Then I will present Europe part, more with the challenges and market outlook. And then we will have the chance to have special best practices, one from Berlin and one from Copenhagen. And then we will finally begin our Q&A sessions. So and of course, each presenter will be explained right after more precisely. So we will start now with the first. To set the first presentation. So to set the stage for today's discussion, our first presentation will take a step back to provide a broader perspective on the global cooling landscape. So this will help us to understand the context in which district cooling can play a transformative role. So I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Luis Munera, who led urban energy work at UNEP. So Luis has quite an impressive background, actually, including 8 decades at the International Energy Agency, where he worked on smart grids, technology, and scenario planning. He also co-authored more than 25 EAI reports, including the World Energy Outlook, and also the IEA Net Zero Scenario. He also developed the technology guide from the same agency, and which is a key source on low carbon technology. Also, Luis holds a PhD on heat decarbonization from Imperial College. So, Luis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victoria. Thanks so much for the introduction. Can I just double check my audio is fine?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. For the next 10 to 15 minutes, my job here is to give you, first of all, an update on what happened at COP29, so the COP that just ended on cooling. Talk a bit more about the Global Cooling Pledge and what's happening on the UNEP side on that front. And then to give you a heads up on some of the UNEP implementation projects on district cooling and an orientation on what we're doing there. So to begin with, I mean, UNEP, we have been working on district cooling since 2013 when we established this district energy initiative. We're taking it forward with the Cool Coalition. For those that maybe are not aware, the Cool Coalition was launched at the United Nations Climate Action Summit in 2019. The Cool Coalition brings together more than 250 stakeholders, more than 80 countries, and it's the world's, at the moment, leading platform for comprehensive action on sustainable cooling, on fighting extreme heat, and so on. And the approach that we take at UNEP for the Cool Coalition is to have a very comprehensive action, so raising awareness, implementation through advocacy, science, joint actions to support countries in a comprehensive way, covering these areas. The Cool Coalition is also the Global Cooling Pledge Secretariat, where we're working with more than 70 countries that have signed the Global Cooling Pledge. And it also supports the tracking of the pledge's implementation, so how well we are doing, how well are the countries doing, the integration of the cooling pledge into the country's nationally determined contributions into the NDCs, and also very recently the establishment of an intergovernmental committee on cooling to drive the pledge implementation. During COP29, there was a lot of activity on cooling in general and on the pledge. We held a ministerial level roundtable, which we were very happy with. We have already, as I said, over 70 nations, cities, non-state actors that we contributed to the discussions here on implementing a global cooling pledge. We had Grenada hitting the milestone of 72nd signatory to the Global Cooling Pledge. We have big support from the UK to support sustainable cooling innovation. We had cities joining subnational signatories. And yes, and we also have this, as I mentioned, the intergovernmental committee on cooling that we established to oversee the progress. Roadmap to 2030. And very importantly, we adopted the Global Cooling Pledge Progress Report. And that's what I really want to focus on now, which is a kind of overview of how the pledge is implementing and what's going on. So this was adopted during this COP. And we have 3 countries that already that ratified the Kigali Amendment 2024. We have the total of countries going to 163. This is a very, very strong area of progress in terms of cooling globally, particularly when we talk about high greenhouse warming, global forcing, refrigerant. And then we also had 49 countries that have implemented minimum energy performance standards, which, as you all know, is a kind of a global best practice, a key tool to enhance energy efficiency of cooling appliances. 37 countries that have incorporated or plan to integrate sustainable cooling into their NDCs. We have 17 countries that have developed or are implementing already national cooling action plans, which, in case you don't know, is something that was incubated within the Cool Coalition, and which is a key tool now more and more incorporated into national policy for planning towards cooling solutions like district cooling. 7 countries that have adopted already building codes that promote passive cooling, and then we have also investments that promotes directly renewable-based cooling, district cooling, etc., like the commitment from the 120 million from the Montreal Protocol multilateral fund. Now, just to highlight here, we have a lot of progress on improving energy efficiency, as you can see, phasing down refrigerants, and we have support from the multilateral fund or Montreal Protocol. However, one area maybe that where we need more progress is global support for renewable energy cooling applications. District cooling is, of course, part of that portfolio of solutions, and that area is significantly lower, the current level of progress. Now, in terms of how at UNEP we're supporting district cooling, we've been supporting district cooling and heating, as I said, for quite a long time. We have already a high number of countries where we're active in. We're folding a lot of the district heating and cooling work into wider urban energy strategies as a sort of more global program towards urban energy. And we have, this is the whole portfolio, I won't go into it, but of kind of technical activities. We work with national governments, we incorporate all these approaches, and we try to fold them into national and transition environment plans. And the idea here is to create that sort of top-down pressure for at the high level with the cooling pledge, with this kind of national conversations that we have for developing the solutions in the ground, for which we're also providing that support. So creating the pipeline of projects, let's say for district cooling, creating technical assistance projects in country, etc. Now, to give you a flavor of how we're doing that and the approach that we take, I mean, I just included here, we develop key steps for the developing of a national district cooling network market, which I won't go into. Since you have a section, I noticed on the MENA region, I included here some work we did with Tunisia, helping develop, make bankable projects on district cooling in the country. And the approach we take here on implementing the cooling pledge and on district cooling in particular is to focus first on data to drive evidence-based policy making, develop capacity building, technical assistance to implement the pledge. So again, to create that sort of market creation, to bring that market creation element to countries. Help with investment plans to enhance the NDC, and wherever possible, wherever relevant, include district cooling as some of the solutions. We also want to advance passive cooling approaches, a complementary way of addressing cooling. And of course, advocacy and awareness on the cooling pledge. Now, just to give you, well, as I said, a flavor of, there's a full range of activities, full range of partners that we partner with, including also on the panel Dan Foss. We have national cooling action plans. We have work on NDCs and cooling. We have a range of communication and advocacy. We try to mobilize the private sector as well. We try to coordinate engagement with working groups, etc., and to focus on district cooling more actively, etc. So this is just more to give you, I won't go into the detail, but I'm sure the slides will be available later to give you a sense of who we work with, who we partner. Now, to dive a little bit deeper into concrete implementation projects. So in countries, we're supporting demo projects, we're supporting training, policy development. As I mentioned, Tunisia. We've also been active in India, in Chile. We've done this also already in many countries in the past. We worked with Colombia, with Malaysia, Morocco, Egypt. And now we're expanding the work, and we're also supporting exchange between the countries. So, for example, we had a study tour in Singapore in 2023. We had in 2024 also sites visits and study tours in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai. And we're developing a district cooling working group under the Cool Coalition. We welcome, of course, partners here on the call to join the Cool Coalition and to also partake in this district cooling working group that we're planning. Now, very concretely, one project I wanted to have, one activity or set of activities I want to highlight in one country, in India. So the aim of the work we're doing in India is to increase the uptake of district cooling systems. We want to create awareness. We want to help develop policies, regulatory mechanisms. We want to support technology demonstration. And we're developing a very comprehensive program supported by a range of governments. We have 7 cities that we support. We're developing 5 rapid city assessments that we've already published for 5 cities. We're developing methodologies, tools that we're developing tailor-made for all the cities. We have a range of pilot projects that we're supporting. I just maybe highlight Pharma City in Hyderabad, which is a new development which has a very heavy component on district cooling. We're also developing market assessments, national, subnational policy support, so in India at the state level, but also at the national level. Developing knowledge tools, so district cooling hub, cool cities hub, etc. And then also doing capacity building. We're doing energy mapping to pinpoint where district cooling solutions can be developed. And we're developing a monitoring and reporting framework for the technology. Now, Sorry. So I mentioned a district cooling hub. This is quite innovative in my perspective, quite interesting to develop a hub of excellence for technology in a country. So there we're developing policy advisory, project support, technology transfer, training, capacity building for district cooling in India. Just to highlight the main activities that we're developing here. So we're strengthening a virtual knowledge center on efficient district cooling that takes into account the Indian context. We're establishing a physical competence center for district cooling in India with support from BE, from GIZ, and of course from our side. We're linking Indian stakeholders with international standard development process that are related to district cooling, which we have already identified from previous work as a key barrier for developing district cooling in countries. And then we're also advising municipalities in the development of urban cooling action plans and extreme heat action plans with regard to district cooling. Just to finalize on the work in India, major achievements and what we're planning for the next couple of years. IFC and Tabreed have established already a holding company with a mandate to deploy a cooling capacity in the next 5 years. We're supporting what is Asia's largest district cooling system. As I mentioned, Pharma City, this is a flagship project, 200 million investment in district cooling. We are developing a report on district cooling system adoption in Tamil Nadu, and we're supporting district cooling pilot project in FinTech City in Chennai. District cooling potential study with EESL, and then, as I mentioned, this Singapore study to run passive and district cooling for policymakers in both national and subnational institutions. For the next couple of years, further developing this virtual knowledge center, sorry, in UNEP's Copenhagen Climate Center, in UNEP CCC, to share information and training resources, and of course, establishment development of this district cooling hub, as I mentioned. So that's it from my intervention. We'll have a Q&A session later. Happy to discuss further there. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Luis, for your presentation and for providing this big picture of the district cooling and also of cooling in general. It's very interesting. Also, we're happy to see that you consider district cooling and consider to have this working group and hub. We are definitely interested in participating in it. And so yes, indeed, it's good to see that you also identify as a game-changing approach. And maybe I just wanted to, for people in the call that doesn't necessarily know much about district cooling, I just wanted to explain a bit how it works. So it's basically from a central plant, chill water is produced in central cooling plant using variety of energy sources. Then you have this distribution network. So the chill water is transported through insulated pipe in connected buildings. Then the building integration part, where the chill water absorbs heat from building and cooling the space efficiently, and then the return of the flow, so the warm water is returned to the central plant to be recooled and recirculated. So this streamlined process reduces redundancy and maximize efficiency across multiple buildings. Also interesting, so we keep talking about why is district cooling efficient. So one first point is that it's energy optimization. So district cooling system achieve efficiency up to 50% higher than traditional air conditioning by leveraging the economy of scale. Also, it helps with grid stability by balancing the cooling load across the network. District cooling reduce peak energy demands. So this is particularly the case in Europe, where we have less than, so it's a bit more complicated with renewables. But we will touch about this topic a bit later. And then, of course, the environmental benefits. So it lowers use of directly contributes to the greenhouse gas reduction and support the climate goals. So important as well to mention here is the adaptability and scalability of district cooling. So there is a bit this misleading conception that district cooling is something always for large cities. It's very big plan. So it used to be historically it used to be the case, but the new generation of infrastructure way more can be sometimes way smaller. So here we have a couple of examples. So of course this urban center with large scale network. We also have this campus style development for university, industrial zone, hospital, etc. So the tertiary sector, and of course localized district cooling where it's a way smaller area and smaller mixed use communities that are using this system. So among the sources, when you talk about renewable district cooling, it can be electricity for centralized chillers, renewables, so solar thermal, geothermal, and energy for low carbon cooling, waste heat, repurposed industrial heat converted to cooling via absorption of coolers, and of course natural resources, so such as seawater or lake water for free cooling in coastal or lakeside cities. So this adaptability really makes district cooling a sustainable solution that align with local energy priority. For the information, so the temperature, the operate temperature is usually between 5 and 6 degrees for supplied water, and it comes back up to 12, 14 degrees. To go with also the global trends, I know, Luis, you also mentioned part of it already, but it's important to see that this will be more and more needed because energy demand for cooling doubled over the past decades. Cooling account now for 20% of total electricity demand. So the driving factors now that will help to develop this technology is also system is of course the climate change and also the rising incomes on urbanization that make district cooling more suitable here. And the impact of this is also the increased air conditioning installation in secondary sector and residential area that leads to the need to develop more efficient cooling system, and the elevated electricity peak demand, as I said, particularly in Europe. Now I think it's interesting to dive directly to more regional targets. And I will introduce our next speaker, with Samer Goder, so Chief Sales Marketing Officer at Empower. So Empower is the world's largest district cooling service provider. And so Samer has over 33 years of expertise in the air conditioning industry. He also has been a driving force behind the Empower success since he joined the company in 2005. So he brings deep knowledge in district heating and cooling and HVACR systems. So this is air conditioning, refrigerant, etc. And he spent 12 years of his career also in a global corporation, and he played a key role in organizing international conference and hearing industry accolades for Empower, while also serving as general manager and board member of Elite, a leading insulated pipe manufacturer in his region. Now on his background, I can say that Samer holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and his postgraduate certificate in management of Bournemouth in UK. So Samer, the floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon for everyone depending on their region. Thank you very much for the introduction. Also, thank you, Luis, for the update of COP29 and the action being taken there. Giving overall about the district cooling and the global demand for the space cooling impact. There is a huge demand for the air conditioning globally, and definitely this will increase the carbon emission. This is driven by the heat wave and population growth and the urbanization. Emission from the cooling are expected to double by 2030 and triple by 2001. This statement came from UNEP program. We have taken this as seeing what's happening. In our region, okay, in Middle East itself, we have 70% of the power consumptions go for the air conditioning. We have limited space for the passive and natural cooling because of the climate. The air conditioning for us, it's not a luxurious product, it is a necessity. While we're speaking now, probably you will check the temperature in our region. So today, Dubai is 27 now. We are beginning of the winter, by the way. While you're talking to other city within Europe, like Paris or London, where you see the temperatures around now 3 and 5. So our area, number of heat days in our area keep increasing day by day. So the government have taken analysis, by taking initiative by taking analyzing the consumption. Where is the consumption of the power going? And it was one of the highest within the area itself, within the region, that 70% of the air conditioning go for 70% of the power go for air conditioning. We'll talk about, and that's made them to take strategic position, okay, on that one. As you said here, okay, climate change, population growth and urbanization, and this is definitely economic growth. So strategic climate solution, it's definitely, it is required for the world climate. It is the district cooling, it is effective, efficient, and cost effective also. Concept of the air conditioning comparing to the other traditional system, saving 50% of the power. Overall, that means if we are saying 70% of the power go for air conditioning, when we say 50%, that will have impact overall the grid around 35%. And definitely is reduce the annual CO2 emission significantly. Okay, Dubai is formed as a district cooling technology. We're talking about the world's largest market. As a city itself, we have more than 2 million ton capacity at the moment, and we're expecting this will be also increase year on year. The concept, as Victoria mentioned about the concept, it's mainly 3 elements, what we call, it's a plant room where we produce the chilled water at 4.5 degree, underground network through pre-insulated pipe, and deliver the cooling, the chilled water to each building through energy transfer station. We had seen that with this model is making sure that the system of the building is segregated from the district cooling provider system, and that will have better control in terms of supply temperature and return temperature. The saving overall, as I said, we're talking about a traditional system between 1.6 to 1.8 kilowatt per ton against the traditional, against the district cooling system, it is 0.9 or 1 kilowatt per ton. In fact, in our area now, we start reaching to less than 0.9. Latest plant room in Power have commissioned, it's almost 0.85. And we are going, still working with the manufacturers, the chiller manufacturer, to reduce the consumption or improve the efficiency of the equipment. Benefit overall, as I said, 50% reduction on the power consumption, reduce the power generation infrastructure, and reduce the greenhouse gas emission. The life cycle of these type of equipment where it's used for district cooling are much longer than the traditional system. We are talking about between 30 to 50 years, comparing to a traditional system, 12 to 15 years, especially in our area, because we have high humidity, we have high temperature, and the area itself, dusty, and there is a lot of things that affect the life cycle of the equipment. And reliable system, we're talking about 99.94. This is the industry rating, comparing to any other system. round-the-clock availability. We have those plant room people 24/7. Adding value to the buildings when you remove the equipment from the building itself. Okay, so the building reduce the vibration, noise problem, and also producing the big space for the buildings where they can be used for commercial, easy to operate and maintain. It's a principle like the power. We launched this in our area. Instead of generating your own chill water, you outsource this business. So it allowed the developers, real estate developers, to focus on their core business. In Dubai, as a Dubai government, Dubai strategy, sustainability strategy, it is driven, okay, up to 2030, that they need to reduce the water consumption by 30% and the electricity consumption by 30%. Through that, there was a board, it's called Dubai Supreme Council of Energy, where it have been allowed to have Dubai Clean Energy Strategy and Demand-Side Management Strategy, and also District Cooling Operator Association. This is allowing the district cooling, although, to meet together and understand the challenges within the area. Unlike other cities in the world, Dubai have 4 district cooling service providers. Okay, because as I said, the market quite big. We are talking about 2 million ton market. We have electricity the efficient cooling. It was part of the strategy. They put 12 pillars for development, and one of them was the district cooling. The aim of this strategy is to let the penetration of district cooling up to 40% by 2030. Currently, the penetration of district cooling comparing to air conditioning market in Dubai, it's around 25%. So we have another 7 years or 6 years to 2030, okay, and we still have to penetrate from 25 to 40%. So we have a huge growth year on year and able to achieve this target. Giving Empower, as an introduction of Empower and how we start the business, we established on 2003 as a decree company from the government of Dubai. It is a typical private government partnership, and it's an end-to-end district cooling provider. We do everything in-house in terms of design and procure, and after that, build the plant room and operate the plant room. This has allowed us to understand the customer need in each and every stage of his development. We have exponential growth span. We have in 1 decade, we become the world's largest district cooling service provider, and we are listed company in the stock market, Dubai stock market. It was in 2022. Empower have more than 80% of Dubai market as a market share. Total connected capacity exceeding 1,550,000 tons. Just to give you scale, Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. It's have 10,000 tons. So when we say 1,550,000, that means we have 155 Burj Khalifa with us. We have 140,000 customers, and these customers are corporate and end user customers. We have 1,550 buildings and 87 district cooling plants, and we have a network underground, more than 370 kilometers of network. These are type of project. Whoever visit Dubai have seen Dubai or came to Dubai probably have seen this. We have a project like the Palm Jumeirah Business Bay project, Dubai Land, Dubai Airport, many DIFC, many projects. If you have checked these ultimate capacity of these projects, around 3 million tons. So out of the 3 million ton, Empower were able to achieve on 20 years around 1.5 million ton. So we have up to another 10 years to achieve another 1.5 million ton. So that's why I'm saying that the growth in the demand of air conditioning or district cooling on our area, it's a huge. Given the sector of this building, what type of this building we are serving, and this is give you clearly that district cooling is it can be achieved with each and every application. So we have 66% of the portfolio is our residential building, 14% are commercial building, 13% are the hospitality hotels. In fact, we are providing district cooling to 21% of Dubai hotel are served by Empower. Dubai have around 850 hotels. So 21% of these hotels are served by Empower. And we have retail, industrial, education, and the others present 5%. The beauty of this number of building and portfolio we have that allowed us to help, even though the new developers or the developers who want to develop this building to make right selection of the cooling or the cooling need, because at the early stage we found that majority, unfortunately, of the engineer are oversizing the capacity or the need of the building. So today, any residential building coming to us and they ask certain based on their GFA and load calculation, they ask the cooling, and we say that we have a similar buildings like your buildings, and this is how the cooling range go. Because depending on the facade of the building, also definitely the cooling will be changed. Nevertheless, we are always within the plus and minus 10%. So we start here instead of taking the data as it is from the engineers, we start also challenging the engineers and saying that this is the cooling required, okay, instead of going with the extra load. It is robust model, as I said, the business strategy, a hybrid approach. It's a public-private partnership. The government owned in our company, its own percentage, and 20% in the listed market. Dubai Water Electricity Authority own 54%, and Dubai Holding own 24%, and the rest in stock market. Definitely, that's allowed us to optimize the cost distribution network underground, because with 370 kilometers underground, we need to take care about this type of asset. We have a long-term contract concession agreement. We go up to 25 years on each building, and we create, as I said, backward integration, where we establish a factory for pre-insulated pipe. We have worked with the also developers to phase the development instead of putting the capacity what been asked at the one time. Then we phase the project, and we work closely with the developers and able to make sure that whatever cooling being built, it is being utilized. We grow through two-way, organic growth and the acquisition. On our organic growth, we do between 60,000 to 100,000 ton per year, approximately. This is the range depending on the business model. But this is how we grow. When we do acquisition, definitely it go based on competition in the market. We create a utility model business. Instead of doing B2B, we made the B2C. So end user receive his district cooling bill on monthly basis through SMS or email, and he have a multi-payment channel. He can pay his bill. With this approach, we allow the end user to control his consumption. And this is first time, it's happened in our area, where usually it was imposed on him based on square footage or allocated load. No, in our area, we did install sub-meters, and he become part of the equation, end user, where he can do saving. And also we create for them education program. Everyone, he can know based on the capacity he have allocated for his apartment. He can go and check through calculator being put on our website what would be the maximum consumption for him through the year and what will be the minimum. So it's like KPI for him to improve his consumption. Again, water glass end-to-end end-user to end-to-end solution. We do everything in terms of design, low-cost modular approach. We don't put the plant room on the first place. We always work with the developers to see what they need. So instead of putting the plant room, which is a huge cost in the beginning, knowing that we work on a negative cash flow model, so we put the modular approach. Small plant room. Mobile equipment, therefore we see the load being built, and after that we put the plant room. Build the in-house. We have in-house project management, for the putting the plant room and the network construction. We operate our plant room ourselves 24/7, and that, as I said, give us complete optimizing in terms of the maintenance of the plant room, putting emergency solution, and also using the IA technology and able to know based on the return water temperature, based on many factors within the submeters, how the occupancy level within each building. On top of that, we made the command control center, where we built a command control center to see all our plant room and how they are operating and for each and every building. This has allowed us to control up to 100 plant room. As I mentioned, we have 87 plant room. We have 100 plant. We have a command control center can accommodate up to 100 district cooling plant room, and we can go up to apartment level. We go from the plant room side to the network, to the delivery of the point ETS room, and up to the fan coil unit of each apartment. Metering and billing solution. We have developed small, full smart meters that allowed us to monitor the cooling consumption on 24 hours and making sure that the customer is able to utilize his capacity. We create a multi-channel for customer care in terms of telephone, email, and physical customer center. What we did on the technology, we start again, as I said, since we start 21 years before, we start with what we call the first generation of the district cooling plant. The first generation of district cooling plant was produce chilled water against demand. So when there is demand, we immediately start in the chiller and we run the chilled water. Later on, we have done the second generation of these plant room where we use thermal energy storage. We have a big diversity between day and night. So the temperature during the day could reach around 46, but in the night we have 35 and 32. So almost 50% of our equipment are not running. So we put thermal storage tank where we produce the chilled water, and we have the peak usually to come from 12 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So instead of running extra chiller during that time, we open the tank. Also, we're being criticized by saying that district cooling consume a lot of water because our machine are a huge size machine. We have machine working on electricity and need connected with cooling towers. So the consumption of the water, it was based on three main elements. That's number one, evaporation. When temperature is 46, you expect a lot of evaporation of the water. Also, we have a lot of wind, 40, and especially on this time of the year, where the wind, again, taking that. And also the chemical, because we add chemical to the water, allowed us to make sure that the system is working without any problem. So we found that using the TSC water, instead of using seawater, instead of using fresh water, allowed us, to improve and add value to the industry. And the TSC water here, it was used for the landscaping. So we took this TSC water and we have built our RO plan in our plant room, and making sure that saving of the water allowed us to TSC water saving the fresh water. We've been awarded many awards. Recently we got 2 Guinness record for project. One of the projects we have, Business Bay, which is the highest capacity of project. It is Business Bay total capacity. It's a 451,000 ton, 9 plant room on this project. We haven't built the entire project at the moment. We have put the network, and we have built out of 9 plant room. We put only 4. And also the other record, we got it for number of buildings. In this project itself, we have 188 buildings. The total capacity building is 320. We have connected 188 buildings as of now. So we got award from Guinness. Also, we have a space award, a number of building award with the IDA, International District Energy Association. We have won this award more than 14 times as a gold and silver, and 3 times as a bronze. We've been also awarded a lot of innovation award, from IDA, which is all the district cooling providers are members in IDA. It is in Boston base. It treated. We got the award for TSC Influent Technology, Delta T Pro Technology, Energy Transfer Solution, Flow Control, and a 360-degree solution for metering and artificial use. We give you a look of this plant room, how this plant room, because we are talking about huge plant room capacity. Our average plant room capacity between 35 to 50,000 ton. So we give you here a couple of building, how it's going to look like. We always try to match the building facade, the area around the plant room. So therefore, we don't create an odd building. These are a couple of plant room on the project, and showing also the total project capacity. We have another slide also show you a couple of building where we have taken the traditional, the Spanish design, the modern design, the DIFC building. It's a full glass building, with showing the plant room. With this one, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Samer. It was really, really interesting. We do have some questions for you in the chat. So first one is, what about the waste heat on the condensate side? Are you somehow using it? So
unfortunately, we don't have heavy industry here. The only waste heat available is on the power plant, and the power plant are quite far away from the city. So we couldn't use this technology on our area. However, it is available on industrial application. We have here a couple of industrial application where they use the waste heat to generate chilled water.
Okay, and another one, what is the percentage of renewable compared to electrical use for the chiller you're using in general?
Excellent question. The Dubai Water Electricity Authority at the moment have a target to by 2030 to produce the power by 50% of the power produced by renewable energy, mainly on the solar. We don't have a wind tunnel here, unfortunately. So mainly the solar. So this cooling become also at the moment as a solution, because with the solar, as you know, that the battery business, is not yet developed to store the power. So this cooling become with our thermal storage tank become a solution where we can produce the chilled water, even though through the solar during the day, and store it on the tank. In fact, we are now studying on some area where we can just let the chiller run during the peak hours to store the chilled water on the tank and use it during the off-peak. So we are just changing the model other way around, 180 degree of the model. Usually we produce the chilled water in the night, and use it on the day. But when availability of the solar, we can produce the chilled water on the day also. and use it in the night. So we have a lot of study at the moment working on this aspect.
All right. Thank you very much for your answer, and we can talk again about it later in the Q&A. So now let's focus on Europe. So I will present this section, and something important in Europe is that district cooling is quite recent in Europe history. As you probably know, it's not as warm as in Dubai, and so we have actually in Europe this long-standing history of district heating that is yes, quite well established, and that represents most of the heating. But before, let me just quickly introduce myself. So my name is Victoria Lienard. I work for UNEP Power as policy advisor. So I mostly focus on the policy side of cooling, also so specific challenges like the PFAS restriction, for example, and as well as the flexibility side that it can be for heating and for cooling. I saw a question in the chat about thermal storage, and this is also exactly what it is about. And I think Andrea will also touch on this topic later on. So before joining UNEP Power, I focused on internal market issues and energy security issues for another trade association. And I studied law, communication, and European studies. So it's not an engineering background, but it helps me to also gather different aspects of policy side. So quickly, so as I said, in Europe we are mostly focusing on heating, although we are developing the cooling sector. And important to note, if I have to give some data, so this system serves as 40 to 60%, 66% of the heating demand in residential and commercial building in Northern Europe. And yes, so also we are trying to modernize this heating networks. So this involves integrating renewable energy, utilizing waste heat, and operate at lower temperature. This is a big part of the challenge here. And also this evolution has postponed district heating as a mature, has positioned district heating as a mature and adaptable technology. But however, with this past and different generation of district heating, we also see this big challenge of decarbonization and retrofitting. But we have a lot of amazing success story of this retrofitting process and voila. But this is for another webinar. I just wanted to mention it quickly. Now on the cooling side, cooling is often considered as a more luxury, but it will become more and more important as you know, since the global temperature rises, also because of urbanization and the increasing prevalence of heat waves. So this leads to really sharp cooling demands, and the traditional air conditioning system dominates but are more energy intensive. So the current state of play at UNEP Power, we have a market outlook. So this is the new number. I'm not sure if you have access to it, but this is the 2024 data on it. And so even though district cooling is still at an early stage in Europe, it's rapidly growing. So as you can see, in 2022, district cooling sales reach 3.3 terawatt hour. And so this is an increase of 8% compared to the previous year. Also, the network coverage are over 200 district cooling networks. So this is spanning more than 1,375 kilometers of pipe, which is 2/3 of supplies concentrated, where 2/3 of the supplies are concentrated in Sweden and in France. So the key players are Sweden, France, Denmark, Austria in this respect. Now, if I can mention some country-specific case, so we have Sweden, which is one of the most mature district cooling market, where the sales are also expected to increase by 50% by 2030, driven by urban expansion and climate adaptation goals. Also in Paris, there are some very interesting projects there with Flécheur de Paris, it's called, and they want to triple the length of their networks by 2042. So this is really expanding in the new cities area. And the city will leverage actually natural cooling from the Seine River. So I don't know if you saw this in the Olympics, but it was also mentioned. Now for Austria, the sales of district cooling have been growing by 5.1 annually since 2017. And there are recent projects, including new cooling loop in Vienna. So also important is that there are some emerging markets with Germany, Finland, and Spain, where cooling demands are rising there. So also about the innovation, so there are recent advancements that are driving this adoption for district cooling. So for example, we can mention the hybrid systems. So this is the integration of heat pumps and absorption chiller to provide both heating and cooling from the same infrastructure. So this is also part of the retrofitting. There are a lot of innovative examples of this. Then we have the smart system, and so this is more the fourth and fifth generation of district networks. So this is really monitoring and control of technology with different smart tools to adapt to local demand patterns. And then you have also the expansion into residential application. So traditionally, it's important to say that that before it was more for hospitals, for the tertiary sector buildings, so hospitals, school, residential. But now there is a stronger focus on residential. So if you can see here, we have that's the district cooling market from 2022. So this is a bit what it's looked like at the moment. So Portugal is starting to implement this as well, and of course they also have this, thanks to the heat and the sun there, they also have this capacity to integrate renewables, etc. So this is quite interesting. But they still use it, while in Sweden they have a lot of thermal storage. So another interesting slide here will be here. So regarding waste heat and residential, we have this Aalborg study that shows in Europe about the potential of these sources that we can find, and here you can really see that there is a lot of geothermal potential that can be used to chill as well, and yes, you have some specific things such as the electrolyzer. So this is more for hydrogen, but this is of course to keep the waste heat again. And when I will share the slide after, because we are a bit over time, but this is basically the idea. So now I would like to go quickly into the policy. I think we are a bit out of time, so I don't want to make it too long. But this kind of project really depends on more the municipalities, etc. But across Europe, I think we will also dive into it a bit more in the questions. But in Europe, we have specific frameworks that serve purposes and that incentivize the adoption of this kind of system. So we have, of course, in the previous mandate, we had the Green Deal with the Fit for 55 package, that where the EU has had this goal of by 2030 target to reduce by 55% the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. And also, so here I want to mention the most relevant one. So it's the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, and the EPBD, so Energy Performance of Building. So important to note is that there are not really specific policy for cooling at the moment. So this is more general for the heating and cooling sector, but is for that. So for regarding the energy efficiency side, there are several attempts to influence the national policy. So, for example, this directive gives legal status to the energy efficiency first principle. Also, you have a measure to incentivize waste heat recovery from data center, for example. This is also very important for district heating. And Article 30, where a member state shall provide financial support for the energy efficiency. So this is subject to secondary legislation and guidance after, to explain a bit more and give guidance to member states on how to do it. Since, as you know, we have more global law legislation on this. So for efficiency, so this also created this concept of efficient district heating and cooling. And there are several. There are two milestones that are suggested here. I won't go into too much detail, but basically the idea is in Europe to be carbon neutral by 2050, and this directive is providing different midterm targets to reach this. Additionally, so the Article 25, that's very interesting actually also for cooling. It's the local heating and cooling plants. So regional and local authorities with a population about 45,000 inhabitants will have to prepare local heating and cooling plants. So here they should map the potential, follow energy efficiency principle again, include the trajectory to achieve the goal, the plan with climate neutrality. Also, member states here are also required to develop national level comprehensive heating and cooling assessment. So this is really to identify the most resource and cost efficient solution to meet the heating and cooling demands. So this is for the men. I mean, we are trying to help member states to implement this, but it's already a good start to actually. I mean, as you know, Europe has we try to adapt to what we find on the local area. So if you have wind, well, you should install specific plants, or if you have geothermal, etc. If you have biomass, this is the more logical and efficient way to think about district heating, district cooling. And so now for the red, it's also but a strong emphasis on waste heat recovery. So, for example, district heating and cooling system above 25 megawatts are encouraged to connect to third-party suppliers of renewable energy sources and waste heat and cold. In this context, Article 23 give a toolbox for member states to increase the renewable energy sources and waste heat sources. And other articles are also incentivize waste heat that can account for towards sectoral targets for building, industries, heating and cooling, district heating. So there is also this attempt to foster system integration. That's quite important also in the cooling side. So this goal is really to increase the role of thermal storage and discussion with electricity providers. So transmission provider and distribution sector. This is a real big work that we are trying to do now, and the red is helping us to collaborate better, share more data for us to adapt and be more and help the grid be more flexible. Because as you know, in Europe we have a problem is to balance the grids, and yes, this is district cooling is also a solution to help not give too much work to the grids. So Finally, there is this energy performance of building directive, so where EPBD foresee full decarbonized building stock by 2050, including through district heating and cooling networks, and standalone power should be phased out in 2 different phases. So here again, member states have to develop a plan on renovation, etc. But I don't want to go too much in detail in this point. So I think now it's important to dive a bit more in the specific topics. So we will have a specific case of from Diana with. So I will introduce her. So one next speaker is Diana Adam. So she's an expert in energy and sustainability sector with over 70 years of experience, and she served as senior referent in politics and public relation, where she focuses on navigating complex regulatory landscape and advocating for environmental initiatives. Her expertise also lie in advising EU regulation. She works on the Green Deal and EU support program, and to promote energy efficiency and circularity. So she will now provide you with concrete example from Berlin, and this is quite interesting because it's actually an example of retrofitting that I really wanted to have in this webinar. Diana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Victoria, for this really nice introduction. A short intro about the company I'm working for so that you get a little bit a better feeling how it might work. First of all, it's the district heating company in Berlin. So we own the district heating grid. It's called BEW, and we are a company which is actually focusing mainly on district heating, but also has some cooling grids. Just to give you a little bit of outline where we are coming from, and also why we think district heating plays a really important role, and therefore also cooling. So first of all, you all know that heating and cooling gets a very social and political significance. We know that the most world's population lives in city, over 55%, and therefore the energy is needed for heating, and also it will increase for cooling. And I think the share of global energy is mainly consumed in city, over 70%. So therefore cities play a emergent role in the energy, heating and cooling area. The company I'm working for, and just to give you a little bit of outline where Germany and all the other metropoles are placed. So of course, Berlin is the capital, and district heating here is over 33%. And compared to other German metropoles like Hamburg or Munich, we are quite similar when it comes how much share district heating has. And as you may know, we really focus now also on our transformation, decarbonization. We have also the Heat Planning Act in Germany. So therefore, we of course try to increase the share of district heating, and maybe overall first oil heatings, which are still exist. We are a quite young company when it comes to the BEW. So we are carved out by Vattenfall this year, and we almost, what I just said, have 32% of the market share in Berlin when it comes to the heating sector. We almost have over 2,000 employees, and we have a long history. So we are existing 115 years in all different kinds of company compositions. So just to give you a little bit some technical facts and also outline what is also really important for us. It's of course mainly district heating, but as you know, in Germany we have this combined CHP plants, so electricity production in Berlin. We are one of the highest producer. So you could see that in the figures that we also have very high electricity production in Berlin. And I tried to focus now more on the cooling side. So we own a district cooling grid, which is in the center of Berlin, close to Potsdamer Platz. For the ones who have already been in Berlin might know this area. So with this cooling center, we already cool offices, over 12,000, 1,000 flats, and numerous culture facilities. So there are a lot of museums and all other cultural facilities in the city of Berlin. This is a traditional cooling grid, but this year, actually, I think today, there will be opening for that. We thought, okay, we have a cooling grid, very nice. We have chillers, which in the summertime even blow up hot heat in the air and actually heating up this air, which is already really condensed in the city of Berlin with more heat. So we have installed a really innovative project. We have a high temperature heat pump installed, and we use actually the waste heat of the existing cooling grid and reuse that again for cooling. So we collect this heat, and then with this existing plant, we put it in our cooling system, and therefore we also provide renewable heat, and by utilization waste heat and renewable electricity. This is actually something where we really focus on reducing water. I think here in the red summary, you see that's over 120,000 cubic meters of water per year, which we can save with this technology. We reduce emissions, which is also really important for us. So over 6,500 tons of CO2. And of course, we have another cooling increase in the area where we cannot so easily install new cooling facilities because it's already a really condensed area. So space is on the limit. And with this technology, we can extra heat and cool our 3,000 households. Some technical facts to the plant. So for all the people who want to focus more on some numbers. So the cooling capacity is about over 45 megawatts. We have annual cooling capacity about 60 megawatts. The length of the pipeline network is about 40 kilometers, 75 transfer stations. It was commissioned, the whole cooling grid, in 1997, and now I just outlined the Quark 3 project, where we have now an extra heat pump, where we use really this high temperature heat pump to install extra cooling capacity. We have done that together with Siemens Energy and had a really good cooperation, and of course also funded by the German Federal Ministry of Jülich. So and here you just have a short picture how it looks like in the cellar. So this is extra the plant for all of you who want to visit Berlin and have a look at the plant. So we try to make it possible to show you also the facility in reality. Just reach out to me. We try to do our best, but I would really like to say the cooling is something we really focus on, and we try to do it in a high innovative way. So many thanks for your listening.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I think I will go back to your presentation in the Q&A session. I don't think there is any question yet, or else you can still raise them after. So I think we can go to another interesting example. Change the slide.
Should I? Okay.
Yes. So I will now introduce your next and last speaker, Andrea Voigt, who is the Vice President and Head of Global Public Affairs and Sustainability at Danfoss Climate Solution, and a global leader in energy. So Danfoss is the global leader in energy efficiency and decarbonization technologies. So Andrea is working since over 2 decades on experience on the heating and cooling industry. So before joining Danfoss in 2021, she serves as Director General at the European Partnership for Energy and Environment for 12 years, and advocating for sustainable technology globally. So Andrea is also holds prominent role within the UN Montreal Protocol at the global at the Cool Coalition, as well as a leadership position in the European Heat Pump Association. So now she will present this specific case of Copenhagen. Andrea, we look forward for your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Victoria, for introducing me and also for giving me the opportunity to present here. And also thank you to the previous speakers, so interesting presentations. Who has ever said that district cooling is not relevant for Europe, for example? I mean, Berlin is not necessarily known for a super hot climate, and nor is Copenhagen, which I'm going to present. So that very well shows the relevance of that technology. So let me just say 2 words about our company. Danfoss is a global multinational company which is headquartered in Denmark, in the south of Denmark, close to the German border. We have over 41,000 employees around the world. And as you can see, sales are quite evenly distributed between the Americas and Europe and then Asia. In terms of organization, we have 3 business segments, as we call them. Danfoss Power Solutions, which is off-highway heavy-duty machinery. We have Climate Solutions, and that's where I belong to, which is all about heating and cooling. And then Power Electronics and Drives, which is, among others, about speed control for motors, frequency converters, etc., and also very relevant for district energy. So, moving on from this, I don't think I need to explain that again. I mean, we heard it from different previous speakers already, what district cooling is and what are the different elements of district cooling. So I'm not going to present this again here. But what I would like to point out, and that was also picked up by I think most of the previous speakers, but it's also very relevant for the Copenhagen example that I'm going to give you, is the different sources that you can use for district cooling. And the beauty here is that it can be very well locally available natural sources, and also waste energy or surplus energy, as this slide here says, energy sources which are there and which can go to waste, unfortunately still far too often. So we have that great opportunity to use sources that are freely available. And so that also gives us then the opportunity to be very reliable, to make sure that we can cater for the heating and for the cooling needs at the best possible conditions, specifically when we combine it with thermal energy storage. And that also, and I think Samir gave a very nice example on how the patterns may be shifting thanks to thermal energy storage, where you can then use that storage to, for example, avoid peaks in consumption, etc. So, and that's also part of the example that I'm going to show now. So that's just to illustrate what I was just saying, how district cooling can help combined with the thermal energy storage to shave off peaks and to have a more even distribution of the kilowatts of the energy being consumed. And that's, of course, even more important as we move increasingly to renewable energies, which are fluctuating and where it's even more important to have ways to balance this out. And district cooling, just by the sheer size of it, offers a lot of opportunities to do so. And by doing that also makes the phase-in of renewable energies more cost-attractive in heating and cooling. So the first example I wanted to give is, both examples are from Copenhagen. One is Copenhagen directly, and the other one is close to Copenhagen. So this one here is Copenhagen directly, with a district cooling central station, and where seawater is being used, and that's one of those freely available sources which I mentioned earlier, to then provide the city with district cooling. And the way how the cooling is used is half of it, more or less, is used for comfort cooling, and that can be for offices or for shops or for apartment buildings, etc. And the other half is used for process cooling and a little bit for freezing. And that can be all sorts of different applications, like server rooms. I think Victoria spoke about data center cooling earlier on. So for server rooms, for example, for hospitals, for food processing facilities, etc. So there is a very even use of the district cooling that is made available here. And the beauty is that we really save, that this is really super energy efficient. And by being so energy efficient, we also save a lot of CO2 emissions. According to those calculations, 70% less CO2 emissions compared to if you had single cooling units per unit. So there is a huge gain to make here in terms of emission savings, and by using the seawater district cooling when we compare it to conventional cooling installations. And here, in this particular case in Copenhagen, we have two distinct cooling plants. One is what I just showed, the free cooling with the seawater. And then the other one is a combination of absorption and compression chillers. And that then comes into play when the seawater is not cold enough to provide directly the district cooling. And so in that case, then the plants, they change the way how they operate. So they are combined, and then they change the way how they operate, and use the absorption and the compression chillers to bring the efficiency to the required level and cool the seawater to the required level. And then again, Copenhagen, a little bit more in the suburbs of Copenhagen, in the Tårnby municipality, where we have a little bit something like was just explained from Berlin as well. We do have there a combination of district cooling and of district heating, and also of waste heat recovery from a nearby wastewater treatment plant. And I wrote down, actually, when Samir earlier said the power plant is too far away from the city, we cannot use the waste heat. And I think this is an example here where good planning really makes a difference, and where you can bring together all these different elements of the bigger puzzle, if I can say so, where all those heat sources and cooling sources are being connected to each other and being used together. And so in this case here, we have 4 heat pumps, and they are used to both generate the cooling for the district cooling network, so the chilled water, and the heating for the district heating network. And then that system is combined with the thermal storage tanks and with ground source cooling and with the excess heat from the wastewater treatment. So it's really bringing those different heat sources together, and then combining them with a storage to provide that flexibility, what I said earlier. In this case, it's a chilled water tank with 2,000 cubic meters, and that serves like a sort of thermal virtual battery, which provides 13 megawatt hours. And by doing that, we have higher flexibility to use the electricity then in order to run the heat pumps, to do that specifically when the electricity prices are low, or the other way around, to stop when the electricity prices are high. And in that context, I also have to say that in Denmark, if I compare it to Germany, for example, this is being done much more. It's being done much more that the electricity prices are being monitored not only by bigger entities, but even by private consumers, actually, who have an app on their phone and who monitor the electricity price and then accordingly decide what they do, if they charge their car now or tomorrow or in the evening, etc. And this, of course, applies then as well to larger plants and utilities, like in this case here. And so the sector coupling then, as I was saying earlier, comes into play by, on top of that, extracting the heat from the wastewater treatment facility and then using it also in the district heating system. So it's really a nice combination of those different elements playing all together to find the most cost-optimal solution and the most reliable solution as well to provide heating and cooling. And so to summarize, and I think much of that was said already, so I'm not going to spell out everything what you read here on this slide, but what I would want to highlight is the beauty of district cooling and also of district heating to bring this flexibility and to bring this capacity to store heat and to make sure that we use our electricity, if it is provided by renewable sources specifically, or our renewable sources in the most cost-efficient way, and when it costs the least money, so that we can shave off those peaks. I think there we have a really beautiful business case as well, and that goes, of course, also for the waste heat recovery. And with this, I hand back to you, Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It was really, really interesting. And those 70% yes, CO2 reduction are very impressive as well in the first example. So I want to go now to the panel discussion. Unfortunately, we are a bit over time, so if you have questions, please ask them in the chat. In the chat, I can transfer them to the speaker or answer them myself later on. But I still have a couple of questions where we can go quickly, and it might be your question as well. So that's quite practical. So I will just go through three different themes. So I just want to go back quickly to the policy part. Then, which was also the goal of this webinar, maybe go through region-specific question quickly because there are specificities, of course, and then maybe the implementation challenge and the perspective of our speakers. So also thanks a lot to all of you for your presentation. So first of all, thank you, Luis, for staying this long and for your first presentation. I just so I had this question of what do you think? We saw that you have very specific program, etc., that for district cooling. Now, the question is now in this kind of big meeting, COP24, etc. Where do you see that it really plays promoting role for district cooling project? Do you see that we are heard at this level as well, and that there will be some measures after that?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Victoria. So I think in general, international collaboration on climate, on energy solutions, it works best first when you have a global problem that in order to solve it, you need to have local implementation. So it's a global problem, but the way to address it is local. So for example, we showed like progress in terms of high greenhouse warming potential gases. We agreed during the Kigali negotiations to establish a phase out of these high GWP HFCs. It was very successful in terms of signatories. The same for the Global Cooling Pledge. So what these kind of agreements like the Global Cooling Pledge do, they create this kind of top-down pressure to put cooling in the first place on the agenda of national policymakers, all the way down to regions, cities, etc. In national climate plans, we're seeing more and more in NDCs, but all the way down to, let's say, planning of utilities and so on. So on the one hand, you have this kind of top-down pressure or top-down drive that we create with these international agreements. And then on the other hand, like, I mean, whether you can have district cooling in the first place as a solution, this depends on the awareness of the technology, on showing that business models are technically viable, that they're bankable, and then scaling it up, building a pipeline of projects, and that requires an ecosystem around it. So we have this kind of top-down pressure, but then the ecosystem of technology needs to develop more in a bottom-up way locally. But there also international collaboration has a huge role, I think, in terms of knowledge sharing, for example, when it is needed to disseminate, to accelerate the application of best practices. So, for example, for district cooling, big barriers that we have already identified from the UNEP side, there's a lack of supportive legislation, building codes, there's a low awareness among public stakeholders. There's even a widespread lack of experience, I would say, in how to structure cooling tariffs. Low levels of expertise in public sector administrations, real estate developers, etc. So international collaboration can tackle all of this stuff. And then maybe to also mention that wherever there's also a need to create more standard solutions, international collaboration also can work great. So whenever things need to be replicated quickly, more standardized and so on. So for example, in mission innovation, we've seen how demonstrations, you can carry them in tandem in many countries, in parallel. Countries that have learned from each other in the process of demonstrating new technologies, and district cooling is one of those where we have seen this kind of progress. And then finally, I would say whenever we need to pool finance for solutions that need it. So I think for district cooling, more and more we're demonstrating the technology, but there's that kind of hump that we need to overcome. And then pooling solutions across different countries that can be very, very beneficial. So we have the 120 million, as I mentioned, the Montreal Protocol Multilateral Fund for advancing scalable cooling solutions, and that includes district cooling and nature-based cooling strategies. But we also have, the joint, the JETPs, the Joint Energy Transition Partnerships. We have a bunch of multilateral initiatives that can help sort of pool funds and direct it towards something that's attractive locally, depending on the national context, like district cooling.
Okay, thank you very much for this comprehensive answer. As you mentioned, it's very bottom up in general when we talk about concrete implementation, and this is a good beginning for my next question. So I also mentioned that at the urban level we have very specific that we have very specific rules. But do you feel that there is that these rules are respected on the ground? Maybe Samer, can you answer this?
I don't know if we can hear him.
Yes, I don't know if anyone wants to answer this question to explain if you feel that this need for member states to do their research and study on the ground are happening, and if you feel that's law respected.
I mean, perhaps if some of the more European-focused colleagues can intervene. On my side, I can speak to like the international experience. That is there. It's much more about it's much earlier stages, and it's much more about building those capacities in the first place, talking with regulators, sitting down. As I mentioned, the work in India, like state-level governments, very much doing the groundwork. even before we can talk about, are we actually complying or not? So it's much more early stages kind of. But if there's some kind of more European-minded colleagues that can maybe intervene, that would be.
No worries. Maybe I will go to the next question that is also a bit linked to that. But in this case, more broadly now, what would you recommend to policymakers to make the change happen and district cooling being taken?
Maybe I'll pick it up as well, Victoria. So I would say, but in general, I think we need to do a lot more awareness building. I think very often when we discuss with policymakers, the mention of district cooling, I mean, especially in at least the countries we work in, like there is awareness of district energy solutions in general. There's awareness of, local sort of neighborhood, local area solutions more broadly. But when we speak about district cooling, but in terms of the range of solutions that district cooling can provide in terms of supply of cooling, but also in terms of the overall, let's say, cold chain, there's a distinct lack of awareness. I think policymakers tend to be much more aware of, let's say, the supply chain for electricity, the supply chain for heat as well, but much less on the cooling side. So I think in general, and that's a lot of the work of UNEP through the Cool Coalition, through the Global Cooling Pledge. There's a very strong need to make policymakers aware in the first place of that. And then on the second hand, on a second point, I would say on the regulation side, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Sharing what are the kind of regulatory barriers that are impeding more of the deployment of the technology. That's very local. It tends to be like a very local issue because regulatory systems are very different. But that's something where even on the regulation side, it's not very clear how to set up a good sort of conducive enabling system for cooling in general, I would say, but for district cooling solutions in particular. Those are like two main aspects I would highlight.
All right. Thanks a lot, Luis, for your perspective on this topic. I think that since we're a bit over time, maybe it would be better to collect your question in the chat, and we will answer to it later. I know that Andrea and Diana also have other meetings right after, so we'll answer you later. And thanks a lot for your participation to the meeting. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.